there was this large newspaper house, they wanted to launch a business paper, and so the task was given to us, right from naming it to positioning it to making it a competitive business newspaper in the marketplace. India is probably the only market in the world where newspapers are growing, right? Where people read newspapers, and in India there are 1,000 television channels. It's more than any other country in the world. Viciously competitive. You had the Economic Times, which is the world's largest business newspaper. Then you've got FT, which is Financial Times from the UK, and so on and so forth. So formidable competition. And it's a very new space because this is a newspaper getting into business newspapers. And after doing a lot of research, we came to this interesting insight. And that is, businessmen and entrepreneurs, they read a business paper very differently from a general newspaper. There is more intensity when you read a newspaper, a business newspaper. You read it with greater involvement, with greater engagement, because something there can affect you. There's a competitor out there. There's an idea out there, right? So what you're also getting out of it is something else, right? You're reading it differently. It's also more expensive. The time you spend is more compared to a regular newspaper. So after digging into this, we had this insight. And the insight was this. We first called it business line, right? And second, we said, this is not a business paper. It is a business consultant. In other words, you don't read it, you consult it, right? So that's really how we reframed how people look at business papers, right? And it was a 6-7 ad campaign, ad number 1 just had one word. It said rear view mirror. That's all. With a rolled up paper in it. And it just said, you don't read it, you consult it. In other words, you can see who's going to ambush you, your competitor, right? Because that's what a business consultant is supposed to do, right? Then ad number 2 said corporate escalator. Okay, that's it. And the rolled up paper, and it said, you don't read it, you consult it, right? And the third one said antiperspirant. In other words, you don't sweat. In fact, this antiperspirant as a headline became pretty popular. A lot of people started using it after that, even a few years after that. And then it said bear trap. Okay? Meaning it traps the bears and releases the bulls. It just said bear trap because we assumed a certain level of intelligence. Because the reader is a slightly evolved person, right? And the last ad just said launchpad. It's a launchpad of careers. It's a launchpad of products. So it's like those days we didn't have platforms. Like this was, I'm talking 1993. Okay, way before you were born. And then we said we're going to take a pot shot at Financial Times and Economic Times. They were a business paper that was of a unique color. They call it salmon pink, right? And we had a very cheeky headline. He said, no artificial coloring. Yeah. This is just to take a pot shot at them. And so that's really how it went on. That was one of the first piece of work I had the privilege of being part of, and that's why I recall it very fondly. So it took off like a rocket and swept a lot of awards, and all those are secondary. But it gave a great satisfaction because for the first time I realized how important it is to get under the skin of the person you're trying to communicate. Absolutely. And you got to literally investigate, interrogate, and get under the skin. And when you do, what you notice can literally transform not just you, right? but the client, the customer, and so on and so forth. So it kind of worked at every level.